Yo, what's going on people? It's your boy Huncho, back at you again with another video. And recently we've been highlighting a lot of stories surrounding pedophilia and how a lot of the time pedophiles end up being people in positions of power. Of course, pedophiles come in all shapes and sizes and they come from various backgrounds, but I can't lie to you, a lot of the stories I see surrounding these types of criminals, it really does end up being people who hold positions of power. But if I could give you an answer as to why this was, I would. But if I'm completely honest with you, I've never really understood why grown men and women, especially in positions of power, go out of their way to contact children and attempt to do sexual things with them. Unfortunately, sometimes these people are successful in what they're doing, and what they don't realise is for their own sexual gratification, they're taking away a child's innocence, and believe me when I say this, it really does scar them and stays with them for the rest of their lives. So this next story we're about to get into actually starts all the way back in 2017 when 32-year-old police officer Gareth Richards, well, his phone actually gets seized by Humberside Police, who he was working for at the time, as part of an anti-corruption investigation. For reasons unknown though, because from what I've read, it doesn't really go into much detail about that specific inquiry. After they seized his phone though, police extracted data from the device, and let's just say some messages were found on the phone that didn't necessarily fall in line with the law. In November of 2017, he would go on to be arrested because of these messages, and then another phone which was in Gareth's locker at the police station was seized by police officers, and here more material was found which again didn't necessarily fall in line with the law. He would go on to be interviewed 2 further times over the course of the investigation in January of 2018 and April of 2019. Eventually though, police constable Gareth Richards would go on to be charged with a total of 14 offences, including 10 counts of inciting a child to engage in sexual activity, 1 count of causing a child to watch a sexual act, and 3 counts of producing indecent images of children. He went on to plead not guilty to these charges though, and a trial was to go ahead, which I believe would have started in October. Before a jury could be sworn in, and 1 day before one of the victims in the case was due to give evidence, he would go on to plead guilty. Last Friday though, that being the 11th of December 2020, a sentencing hearing took place, and here the court was told that it's believed that Gareth had started to talk to young girls on the messaging app Kik way back in September of 2016, and he proceeded to do this all the way up until March of 2017. I believe that's when his phone got seized by police. He used false names, lied about his age, going on to tell victims he was also a teenager, and told them he was from similar areas to them to try and connect with them. Conversations with the 14 and 15-year-old girls, which were unknown to each other, would quickly move to sexual matters where he would ask them if they were virgins and if they wanted to have sex. Many of the girls he spoke to had 01 or 2001 in their usernames, indicating their year of birth, and the prosecution would go on to say in a message he sent to one of his victims, he said, "Are you really 15? Doesn't matter if you are." He asked for nude pictures from the girls and even had video calls with them in which they performed sexual acts for him. He even took a screenshot of one of his victims, who the court heard was particularly vulnerable because of her personal circumstances, performing one such sexual act, and he saved the image to his phone. The court heard the messages had also included repeated offers to meet up with his victims, but that never came to be. As you guys know, the offending took place whilst Gareth was working as a police officer, but the court was told that the offending didn't take place while in his role as an officer, although he did boast to one of his victims, who he believed was 16, that he was in the police. She later told officers in police interviews though that she didn't understand how a 16-year-old could be a police officer. In victim impact statements read to the court, some of the girls said that they had been shocked to find out the person they had been speaking to was actually a police officer. The girls, who are now young women, said it affected their mental health, their relationships with family and friends, and even their trust of the police in general. After the 90-minute sentencing hearing, Gareth was sentenced to 5 years and 4 months in prison. Sentencing him, Judge John Thackeray said, "It's a great concern for parents to hear that there are people like you on the internet and chat sites looking for children to engage in sexual activity. Offending of this type creates tension between parents and their children. Parents want and need to trust their children online, and children want to be trusted, but your offending erodes that trust." Adding, one victim understandably commented that she had a mistrust in the police after she learned the man she was in touch with was a police officer. "I hope in time they can learn you are the exception and the police can be trusted. So what I didn't actually mention was, in court, Gareth's wife would actually go on to give him a good character reference, and in turn this could potentially lessen the sentence. But after the sentencing hearing and more details came out about what exactly happened here, she came out to actually condemn his actions, going on to say that she felt manipulated by him. You see, what Gareth had told his wife was that he didn't know the age of the girls, but of course he did, because you've seen what he said to them. She allegedly kept pushing him to reveal more details of what was actually going on, but he refused to budge. And it's believed now that both Gareth's wife and teenage child have nothing to do with him anymore and are keeping their distance. So it's pretty crazy to think that even though, yes, this took place 4 years ago, Gareth does have a teenage child, and maybe back then they wasn't a teenager, but it's still crazy to think that he was speaking to these teenage girls, pretending to be a teenager, all whilst having a family at home and having a child at home as well. Like, what kind of sick mind must you really have, knowing that you have a family at home and you're going on the internet asking for teenagers to have sex with you and going on to speak with them sexually online? But again, speaking to children online as an adult is absolutely disgusting. And again, we do see someone in a position of power or authority, that being a police officer, being in this position once again. But let me know what you guys think of this down in the comment section below. Give the video a little like, and if you want the latest drill, street and music news out of the UK, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your boy Huncho, and I'm out.